The White House, and President Trump is going after him. Biden bashing Trump on foreign policy at his kickoff rally in Philadelphia over the weekend as the president heads to battleground Pennsylvania later today. Here is the president swinging back at Biden.
He says China is not a competitor of ours. China is a massive competitor of ours. They want to take over the world. But with Biden, he says they're not a competitor. Then they take a lot of money from China.
Joining us now, Marc, columnist for The Washington Post. Marc, good morning to you. We can debate whether or not we have the upper hand in this trade war or not, but politically, how is this playing for the president?
Oh, I think it's playing very well. I mean, he's fighting for the forgotten Americans who put him into office, and he's winning for the forgotten Americans. I mean, there's two problems that Joe Biden has when it comes to China. One is corruption, and the other is incompetence. So corruption, as Peter Schweitzer pointed out in his book Secret Empires, in December 2013, Joe Biden flew to Beijing on Air Force Two with his son Hunter as part of his official delegation, met with Chinese leaders. 10 days later, Hunter Biden got $1 billion public equity investment in his company, Seneca Partners, not from a Chinese company, but from the Chinese government. So within 10 days of flying to Beijing with his father on Air Force Two, he got $1 billion from the Chinese government. That is certainly reeks of corruption. And then second, Joe Biden's China policies haven't worked. When he was in office, the Obama-Biden administration, they lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, many of them to China. And they told us those jobs are never coming back. Well, guess what? Under Donald Trump, those jobs are coming back. He's added 500,000 manufacturing jobs since taking office as president of the United States. The unemployment rate for American workers without a high school education is the lowest it's ever been on record. So Biden's rationale for his campaign is he can win back the forgotten Americans, those Obama-Biden voters who defected to Donald Trump in 2016. But the problem is those voters are doing better under Donald Trump than they did under Obama-Biden.
Very interesting. We heard from Andy Puzder, the businessman, former CEO of CKE Restaurants, once considered for a role in the Trump White House. He makes the case that we have the upper hand when it comes to China.
We're definitely the party that's the strongest here. They can punish us with about $130 billion worth of what we export to China. We've got over $400 billion of what China exports to us. So we're in a much stronger position. There will be short-term pain. I don't think it'll be as bad as people think it's going to be.
Short-term pain and lots of volatility in the stock market, that's for sure. Last thought on that before I move on, Marc.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, look, the U.S. economy grew at 3.2%. We've got the lowest unemployment rate since 1969. In fact, the big problem we have in the American economy is there are more job openings than there are unemployed people to fill those jobs. China is the exact opposite. They're growing at the slowest rate they have in 3 decades. Their wages are dropping. They're shedding manufacturing jobs. So they're weak going into this trade fight. So Donald Trump believes the U.S. economy is strong relative to China. We can withstand a trade war. And on top of that, U.S. inflation is incredibly low. So, yes, there's going to be some cost to American workers from tariffs. But the fact is they're not going to be that big because inflation is so low. We can absorb those costs in for a temporary time.
I want to finish up with your thoughts on some of the latest polling that is out there, Marc, looking at potential matchups against President Donald Trump. Democratic candidate Joe Biden still tops the list. In a potential matchup, he would win 49 to 38. Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders is up there. Elizabeth Warren still has the potential to beat him, according to this latest polling. Kamala Harris tying the president. You'd have to get to Pete Buttigieg before you see a potential matchup where the president would win. Thoughts on that?
Yep. Well, you know, when they ask those questions of Americans during the polls, they say, if the election were held today, who would you vote for? And most Americans say, if the election were held today, I'd be very surprised. We're a long way away from Election Day. So there's a lot of time for Donald Trump to make up that ground. And look, Joe Biden is way ahead. But guess what? The left is coming after him because he wants to find a middle ground on climate change. Well, that's not going to fly with the neo-socialists. And he wants to work with Republicans. He thinks when Donald Trump leaves office that all of a sudden the Republicans will start making compromises, and he's willing to compromise with them. The Democratic Socialists who are taking over the Democratic Party, they don't want to compromise with the Republicans. They want socialism whether we want it or not.
Well, you quickly see why Biden was in Pennsylvania over the weekend. The president will be there tonight. When you look at this latest Quinnipiac polling, Biden polling 39% there, and about 13% for Bernie Sanders. So Biden